I'm convinced you could find the biggest Hans Niemann hater in the world, and in this particular situation, they would still side with Hans Niemann. And that's because if you don't side with Hans Niemann, you're siding with the biggest man-child in chess, Jan Nepomniachtchi. If you weren't already aware, Hans Niemann and Jan Nepomniachtchi had a head-to-head match pretty recently that resulted in 6 draws and 2 decisive results. Overall, the match was a draw. I didn't actually watch this game because it was around the same time as the Champions League final, and no, I don't want to talk about that final either, but it was a head-to-head match where Jan Nepomniachtchi did really have the chances to win the entire thing, and Hans Niemann didn't. I think going into this head-to-head match, Jan Nepomniachtchi was the favorite to win as well, so this is overall a pretty good result for Hans Niemann. I will quickly mention as well, this event was promoted as having a $100,000 prize pool, which you can see in this promotional piece posted to Hans's Twitter. But after the head-to-head match, Jan Nepomniachtchi had a few things to say about his experience. As you can see here with all of the fire emojis and all of the love heart emojis, this was probably a really nice message thanking Hans Niemann for the opportunity and being very gracious in the draw. Of course, this is not in English, but we do have an English translation here, where Jan Nepomniachtchi says, "The match against Hans Niemann is over. It was an interesting experience, but 2 games a day, even with a shorter time control, is still exhausting. As black, I defended a new opening, which I had been studying as the match progressed. Challenging, but interesting. Both players were playing as they could, but today the contrast impressed me. In the morning, Hans blundered a piece in one move. Obviously, he messed up the move order, and I, half asleep, for some reason didn't take it. Although, of course, I saw the capture on e7. Whatever. But this evening, Niemann played like in his younger days. Hats off to him. An educational game on White's part. Not a single inaccuracy. Overall, even leaving aside the strange incident in the 7th game, I had a better chance of winning at least one or more time, so the draw is more likely in his favor. It was a good hard mode training session before Tashkent, but my desire to play matches in this format has clearly diminished." He also went on to say this, "In my opinion, 8 games in 4 days are still too much, so we didn't even discuss tie breaks from the start. The match was organized on the fly, based on a promise. Details like tie breaks, prize distribution, and so on need to be agreed in advance. The guys from Hans Niemann's team are proposing another match, since there's still some prize money left to distribute. To me, it seems ridiculous. They're offering to play a blitz match online. Maybe it's possible, but I don't like this kind of petty manipulation over a fairly insignificant sum. It seems, to put it mildly, disrespectful on their part. By the way, I don't know where the media sources got their $100,000 information. I'm ashamed to even say what the actual prize pool was. I can only say it was significantly smaller." Now, I will give some context on a few things that Jan Nepomniachtchi has said in this statement. First of all, in my opinion, 8 games in 4 days is still too much. These games were not 90-30 games, they were 60-30, which for anyone that plays just regular club chess is pretty much the standard. I know that it's different when it comes to Grandmaster games, they're a lot more draining than a regular club chess tournament would be, but I think adding the context is important anyway. He says that the match was organized on the fly based on a promise. Details like tiebreaks, price distribution, and so on need to be agreed in advance. One thing that I will say is that from my experience, from seeing people deal with Endgame AI, which is the company that Hans Niemann promotes, they're quite unprofessional in a lot of ways, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was some merit to what Jan Nepomniachtchi is saying. But on the other hand, if he feels like tiebreaks and prize distribution needed to be agreed in advance, he could have just done that. Like, he has the leverage here. He is one of 2 players playing in this event. It's not like his hand was forced or anything, so I'm not really sure why he's saying this at all. And again, the last part, I don't know where the media sources got the $100,000 information. Maybe it was Hans Niemann and his promotional piece for this event. Based on this statement from Jan Nepomniachtchi, it seems like his team proposed this match idea to him and he didn't research it at all. He just saw that he could get paid and he agreed. It was only after the match had ended where he found everything out and found things that he didn't really agree with, and now he's voicing his concerns on it. He also said, "I am ashamed to even say what the actual prize pool was. I can only say it was significantly smaller." This is also coming from a player that is currently 19th in the world. Hans Niemann is also higher rated than Jan Nepomniachtchi right now, so I'm not really sure what prize pool Jan Nepomniachtchi thinks he deserves when he is 19th in the world. 19th in the world is still great, but you do have to remember this was once a World Championship challenger, and this is also a player that's quite inactive and doesn't really play tournaments outside of Russia. So if anything, his rating is probably inflated a little bit too. But of course, Hans Niemann is not one to stay quiet about these kind of things, so he responded to Jan Nepomniachtchi on Twitter. He said, setting the record straight on the match with Jan Nepomniachtchi. The $100,000 came up last year at the Aeroflot Open and appeared in our promo video as a part of the narrative. We should have made it clear at the time that it wasn't the agreed terms for the match, and that's on us. Maybe a lot of people will disagree with this, but I don't really think they needed to disclose that it wasn't actually a $100,000 match. The only moral gray area I can see is if they allowed people to bet on the game under the impression that the winner would win $100,000. But apart from that, if it's solely promotional, I don't really see a huge problem with it. He went on to say what isn't in question is that Jan accepted the actual terms before we played a single move. Prize funds reflect a player's current rating and standing, and Jan's are well off his peak. So the figure was fair and he was glad to take it. Calling it embarrassingly low, only after losing, is poor form. I even offered a tiebreak that gave him a real chance to win the match outright. He turned it down. He then asked for half the winner's bonus for drawing the match, insisting on it, and then complained when we said no. That bonus was for winning, nothing else, and we found the demand unreasonable. I do want to quickly go back to this. It seems ridiculous. They're offering to play a blitz match online. Maybe it's possible, but I don't like this kind of petty manipulation over a fairly insignificant sum. I might be stretching here, but I think Jan Nepomniachtchi just knows he will lose. If the tiebreak was in Classical, I think that it would be completely fair, but I think that Jan Nepomniachtchi knows that Hans Niemann is a much better blitz player than him and just would win this tiebreak. It's also not mildly disrespectful. That's just how all tiebreaks have worked ever, and I'm not sure what else he would expect from a tiebreak. Hans Niemann went on to say, great effort went into this event, and I treated it as the occasion it was. Jan didn't seem to take it as seriously. He wore the exact same shirt and hoodie every single day. What I won't let pass is his line that I played the final game with no inaccuracies, like my younger years. I'd ask Jan to say plainly what he means. Insinuations like that are serious and damaging, and we all remember what they cost me for years. I'd hoped he wouldn't reach for them. On a better note, revenue from ticket sales went to a local orphanage, with the additional donation from Endgame. That's all I'll say. From here, I'll let the chess speak for itself. I think that's a great slam dunk at the end for Hans Niemann as well, just saying that all of the revenue from ticket sales went to a local orphanage. I mean, how can you possibly argue against that? I think it's also a great time to bring up this, which I feel like has been swept under the rug quite a bit. Let me change my OBS scene so you guys can see everything, but this is Jan Nepomniachtchi admitting to cheating against Hans Niemann online. He says, my desk is set up for streaming, 2 monitors and stuff. And I open Chessbase and Stockfish, which I don't normally do when playing. This was an interview in Russian, but these are the English subtitles. I just think it's ironic whenever Jan Nepomniachtchi accuses Hans Niemann of cheating that he has admitted to cheating against Hans Niemann. And you would think that that would be the end of it. Hans Niemann had a great message, the profits went to charity. You can imagine that that should be the end of it. After this slam dunk at the end, I don't think that Jan Nepomniachtchi can continue to be publicly salty about this, right? Absolutely not. Hans Niemann tweeted that he's looking forward to the WestJett Masters, which starts tomorrow. He's also announcing that he will be in the American Olympiad team, which is really cool. But the WestJett Masters is the important part. This was just a couple of weeks after their matchup, and this is Jan Nepomniachtchi greeting all of the Grandmasters at the WestJett Masters, except for Hans Niemann. He deliberately goes past him and doesn't shake his hand. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm pretty sure handshaking is like a really big thing in Russia. I know it is in Australia, and it's a huge sign of disrespect in general. Maybe it's not like that everywhere in the world, but this is clearly intentional. He was also asked about this situation in an interview with Chessbase India, which I will play now.
And there was this moment where you did not shake hands with Hans at the start of the technical meeting. Maybe you would like to share a bit about that?
I don't want to, spend too much time talking on this. But basically, I was really unsatisfied with his behavior in the last day of the match at the board. I don't think it was respectful neither to chess nor for me. Despite he played a very good game against me, like in the last game, but overall his behavior, I found it he's not a teenager anymore, yeah? So would it be 4 years ago, I wouldn't be too thrilled, but I believe when he's 20 plus finally, he probably has to learn how to behave. So all in all, his dedication to chess is commendable, but his behavior is not. And then the communication after the match with him, basically he just stopped answering any messages and so on. Because the thing that we discussed all the details in person, and then he basically vanished. And also I think his statements on X is I don't find it polite to say so.
I also do want to bring this back. This is a video between Yan Nepomniachtchi and Pentala Harikrishna, where Yan Nepomniachtchi does something very similar. The context of this is that Harikrishna brain slipped some pieces and knocked them over. Yan Nepomniachtchi was not very happy about it and slaps his hand away instead of shaking it properly. So he definitely does have a track record for this kind of thing. I'll end this video off with a clip from David Howell where he gives his take on the entire situation.
Give us your juiciest take on the Nepo handshake commission. I mean, Nepo's statement about the match was wild. Like, insinuating that someone is cheating is, I think, like, unless you have proof, is out of order, and like, especially because it's such a like low target, like it's so easy to throw around silly words. Nepo said something about Hans like playing like his younger days, how it was a perfect game. Like, come on, like just play chess and deal with the result. I'm not a great loser, but I mean, I do believe in losing with like grace and moving on, and like maybe the reason Nepo isn't improving anymore, and yeah, it's because he's taking these things to heart personally.